Harry and Meghan make shocking claims of racism in their bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey. The former actress saying the pressures of palace life led her to think about suicide. Thousands take to the streets of Minneapolis as jury selection begins in the trial of the former white police officer charged with the murder of George Floyd. Derek Chauvin pressed his knee into Floyd's neck as the black man repeatedly said, "I can't breathe." And on this International Women's Day, our reporters look at the situation in Ivory Coast, where despite new financial laws in place to protect widows, many of them are still not getting their inheritance. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on France 24. I'm Jeannie Godula in Paris. Well, we'll start first with that 2-hour interview of Harry and Meghan that was broadcast Sunday on US TV. The couple stepped away from their royal duties in January. And in the special, Meghan told the host, Oprah Winfrey, that during her time at the palace, she was pushed to the brink of suicide after asking for help and getting none. Meghan also accused the British royal family of racism, saying her son Archie had been denied the title of prince because there were concerns about just how dark his skin might be when he was born. Harry, for his part, saying his father, Prince Charles, let him down. Karis Garland has more.
Damning allegations about royal life and members of the House of Windsor. In a 2-hour interview with American talk show host Oprah Winfrey, Harry and Meghan spoke candidly of strained royal relationships. Meghan Markle said she had suicidal thoughts after joining the family, but received no support from Buckingham Palace. She also referred to concerns about the colour of son Archie's skin.
In those months when I was pregnant, we have in tandem the conversation of, you won't be given security, not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
Harry, meanwhile, said he had felt trapped by royal life and felt let down by his father and heir to the throne, Prince Charles.
He's been through something similar. He knows what the pain feels like. I will always love him, but there's a lot of hurt that's happened.
The interview has made headlines in British newspapers and is set to intensify a rift that has captivated the public on both sides of the Atlantic.
I think it's important that they have their side of the story and they're open to sharing whatever they feel.
This is all about marketing and just getting new attention and making money.
On a more positive note, the couple revealed the gender of their second child, a girl. The interview comes after Buckingham Palace last month confirmed Harry and Meghan would not return to their senior roles.
In Minneapolis, jury selection in the trial of Derek Chauvin is starting today. He is the white former police officer accused of murdering George Floyd, kneeling on his neck as the black man repeatedly said, "I can't breathe." That became a rallying cry for protests against police brutality and systemic racism, both in the U.S. and around the world. Those protests taking place again in Minneapolis. France 24's Kethavan Gorgistani reports.
The process of selecting those 12 jurors actually started about a couple of months ago when these prospective jurors were sent out 16-page long questionnaires to determine a little bit how impartial they could be about this case. Some of the questions were their views on law enforcement, their views on the Black Lives Matter movement, but also more specific questions like how many times had they seen that video of George Floyd's arrest? Had they participated in any of the racial justice protests that followed the death of George Floyd? Of course, this Monday, those prospective jurors are now going to be interviewed both by the prosecution, the defense, as well as the judge to determine if there are any jurors that need to be set aside because they cannot be fully impartial on this case. That said, the judge already admitted that given how much media coverage George Floyd's death had gotten over the past months, it would be very hard to find someone that has no idea on the case, that has no position on the case, and that is fully impartial. But that's what they're going to try to do. It is being dubbed as one of the most important trials in the history of this country, in a country where police officers very rarely get punished for fatal encounters in the line of duty. Also a big first for the state of Minnesota is having this trial fully televised, gavel to gavel coverage coverage of these proceedings. One big unknown, though, for this trial is the actual final charges set against Derek Chauvin. You have, of course, the second-degree unintentional murder and second-degree manslaughter, but there is the debate over a third-degree murder charge after a court of appeals on Friday told the judge to reconsider reinstating that third-degree murder charge. The decision on that could potentially delay the proceedings. We still don't know exactly what will happen, but that could also derail or not this very important trial here in Minnesota, but of course for the rest of the country too.
Kathy Van Gorgestani there reporting from Minneapolis. Now, new reports out of Myanmar say at least 2 more protesters have been killed. The country has been rocked by demonstrations and violence since a military coup ousted democratically elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi 5 weeks ago. And after a weekend of night raids and arrests, a general strike was held this Monday. Security forces have continually cracked down on the protests, with more than 50 dead now and 1,800 arrested.
Offering protection against potential clashes with security forces, armed men from the Karen ethnic group escort some 2,000 protesters. Mostly teachers and students, they're heeding trade unions' calls for a general strike, with the goal of shutting down Myanmar's economy. The junta, however, warned civil servants they would be fired if they continued the boycott. The army has intensified its crackdown on protesters in recent days. More than 50 people have now been killed since the start of demonstrations. It sparked international condemnation. On Monday, Australia confirmed it had suspended its defence cooperation with Myanmar.
So those needs of humanitarian development and support and focus are ones which we have worked very carefully to ensure we're still able to deliver, but we will not be delivering through government agency. We also have an embargo on any military sales to Myanmar, and we will keep our sanctions policy under close review.
The US, Britain and Canada have tightened various restrictions on Myanmar's army, but while they may be symbolically important, it's unclear whether sanctions imposed so far will have much of an impact. Most of the top generals were already under sanctions, and some experts say sustained targeted diplomacy would be more effective. The military denies responsibility for deaths during protests and has defended seizing power by alleging fraud in November's elections.
Meanwhile, over 160 Rohingya Muslims who ran from persecution in Myanmar are being held in a detention center in India. They were rounded up ahead of their expected deportation back to Myanmar. Some 5,000 Rohingya are believed to live in the Indian territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Indian authorities say the Rohingyas they plan to send back are illegal migrants and a security threat. NGOs, though, asking India to revise its position and help the persecuted minority. In Senegal, opposition leader Ousmane Sonko will be in court today over a rape charge he says is politically motivated. The opposition is calling for more protests. 5 people, including a schoolboy, have already been killed in days of clashes that were sparked by the arrest. This is the worst violence seen in Senegal in years. Senegal, a country that's usually seen as a beacon of stability. Shirley Sitbon reports.
Senegal is on the verge of the apocalypse. That's the alarmed assessment of Alioune Badara Cissé, the national mediator, after 3 days of protests turned deadly. Demonstrators accuse President Macky Sall of being behind one of the opposition leaders' arrest. The mediator has urged the president to speak out.
We have the obligation to mark a pause. We're waiting to hear your word, and the nation is waiting for you to talk.
Protests erupted on Wednesday when lawmaker Ousmane Sonko, one of the main opposition leaders, was taken to court on rape charges, which the opposition believes are politically motivated. When the same day Sonko was arrested for disturbing public order, violence broke out. The deadly clashes were the most violent seen in years in Senegal, known for its stability. The opposition has called for 3 days of mass, peaceful protests. The UN, the ECOWAS regional body, and 19 foreign embassies have voiced concern, calling for restraint and urging authorities to take measures so that people can protest peacefully. On top of protesting against Macky Sall, who the opposition accuses of planning to cling on to power, the crisis has resurfaced long-standing frustrations. Protesters have denounced inequalities in Senegal, where 40% of the population lives in poverty.
Let's take a look now at some other news stories from around the world today. And the Pope is heading back to the Vatican after his farewell ceremony in Iraq. This was the first ever papal visit to the country. While he was there, Pope Francis gave an open-air mass and spoke to thousands in the northern city of Erbil. He also visited several sites formerly occupied by the Islamic State group. Voters in Switzerland have narrowly backed a so-called burqa ban, now forbidding all full face coverings in public places like restaurants, sports stadiums, or simply in the street. That decision was hailed by supporters as a move to stop radical Islam. Opponents, though, say it's discriminatory. The vote came after years of debate in Switzerland following similar bans in other European countries and in some Muslim-majority states, despite women in Islamic full-face veils being exceptionally rare in Switzerland. And Iran has released British-Iranian aid worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe from house arrest, removing her ankle tag on the day her 5-year prison sentence ends. But her lawyer said she's been summoned to court again on another charge. Zaghari-Ratcliffe was arrested at a Tehran airport in 2016 on spying charges. She denies the allegations against her, and the British government has always maintained her innocence. Well, today is International Women's Day, and we'll now take a look at the situation in Ivory Coast, where, despite new financial laws in place to protect widows, many of them are still not getting their inheritance. Our correspondents, Caroline Dumais, Sam Bradpeace, and Damien Kofi, take a look at why.
Many women work the fields of Ivory Coast, but rare are those who, like Madeleine, manage their own plantations. She now owns one of the most beautiful houses in the village. Madeleine inherited the land after the death of her father.
Parce que l'aîné ne veut pas venir au village. Donc je ne pouvais pas laisser comme ça. Si je laisse ça comme ça, si d'autres personnes prennent, c'est pas bon. Je suis venue, j'ai planté ça. J'ai planté les verres. Le travail du champ, c'est pas une mince affaire, c'est très difficile. Mais j'ai pu faire ça.
Madeleine is living in a man's world. According to the customs of her region, women do not inherit land from their fathers. But today she's respected by all the other farmers. She was ahead of her time. In 2019, a law was passed allowing women across the country to claim inheritance, but few people know about it.
Il y a des lois même qui existent en Côte d'Ivoire que nous ne connaissons pas. Nos députés, là, les gens que nous élisons, qui vont à l'Assemblée nationale, ils ne prennent pas la peine de nous expliquer ce qui se passe dans l'hémicycle.
In Abidjan, Ivory Coast economic capital, some people are working hard to bridge this knowledge gap. André Fessaline is a legal advisor and posts videos to her Facebook page to inform Ivorians about the law. She has thousands of followers online.
Bienvenue dans le lexique juridique. Aujourd'hui, nous allons parler de l'ordre des successibles dans le cadre d'une succession légale. Depuis 2013 en Côte d'Ivoire, il y a eu énormément d'avancées juridiques. Tant sur la loi du mariage que même sur la loi des successions, c'est bien. Maintenant, il faut que les citoyens ivoiriens se sentent concernés. Une veuve aujourd'hui qui sait qu'elle peut hériter au même titre que ses enfants, qui ne va pas ouvrir une succession en bonne et due forme et laisser le juge partager la succession, qui se fait tout arracher. Aujourd'hui, moi, j'ai mal parce que le droit la priorise, mais elle ne va pas bénéficier de cette loi.
Ivorian women are often victims to tradition. While the laws themselves may be improving, more education is needed for women to be able to fully exercise their rights.
Do stay with us here on France 24. I'll be back in 15 minutes with more of your world news.